Right, so you should have your photograph open on your sketchbook canvas, and you should also have your background. Now, just a reminder of how you would do that. You will make sure that you have got a new layer open. So one for your background, just to save confusion. One for your background and one for your photograph. If you click on your tools, then import image, you can select either, so your background, you can distort it so that it fits the right frame, and then you can do the same for your background. Etc. And then just make sure you tick it. So let me just delete these two because that was just to show you how to do it. So this is what it should look like when you have your photograph and your background. So in today's lesson, what you're doing is going to be exploring your mark making and your shapes to try and create your outcome that looks similar to Temi Coker's work. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how you can apply patterns onto certain parts of the face. So if you zoom in, because you'll notice that in Temi Coker's work, he does exactly this. Go to your tools, go to your selections, and then make sure that you are on your photograph. You're going to use the lasso tool, and you're just going to draw the area that you would like to lasso, like to experiment with. You can then fill this area in with one of the marks that you created when using your mark making techniques. One thing that I do think looks really effective is if you actually fill the shape first of all with a color. So just a plain color. I'm going to go for white. So because it's selected, if I click fill and then this one and then this one, this area will now be filled. I can then tick it, but I can also, because it's still selected, if I change this now to maybe a yellow, and then I select the tool I would like to use, I can fill this shape with my pattern. I can then make sure that I've deselected it. If I zoom out, you can see that that area has now been selected. Now, obviously, you may not do it to be such a big area, but you could have something subtle like that. And then also remember, if you ever want to undo anything, there's a small circle in the middle. You click that and then you just undo, redo. So that is one thing that you can do. I'll show you even more subtly. It's quite nice if you apply it to the lips. So selection, magic wand, and you can just select certain areas. These are a little bit more subtle. And then I can get my pattern. Just going to change the color so that you can see it. Zoom out. Then deselect. You can see that area has been filled with just pattern. Now, what I would suggest is you might decide actually that that's a bit too much pattern going on for you and you'd actually prefer to apply the pattern on the face rather than the background. If that's the case, you can always delete this layer, delete, and then if you select the background, you can then make it just one solid color like that, and then you can have just a solid background color instead. One last thing that I'm going to show you to do, make sure between the background and the photograph you have a layer. You can draw some brightly coloured shapes. So first of all, make sure that the tool you're using is appropriate. Then you're going to go to the tools and drawing styles, and then if you select that layer and you've got your circle, for example, circle, square or rectangle, you can then draw that shape on, depending on where you want it. Now that was because I was trying to make it look a little bit like a halo, because obviously she is no longer with us. If you wanted to fill that shape, you then go to your selection tools, make sure that you are on the layer that it is drawn on, get your magic wand tool, select that area, it's going to fill that shape in. You could then get your pattern again, so, and you could fill that, and only this area is going to be filled. Now that probably would have worked better if I'd chosen a different colour. And also you can actually make the brush size a bit bigger so that the dots show up more. And if I just change the colour here, yes, you can see that that would show up a bit more. Deselect, and that is one thing you can do. So you're going to experiment with selection and your texture and your pattern and also your shapes. Then you're going to start using brush marks to be a bit more experimental. So similarly to Temi Coca's work, there's lots of just wispy lines that are included and different brush marks, very experimental. Don't think too much about it, okay? And that is what you're going to be working on in today's lesson.